I hope you can hear me. Okay, so if you can still hear me, so I'm trying to save that particular data in the project folder. I try to save it in the project folder. And like I was saying, there is need for us to save, if possible. We save two versions, CSV version, which means comma delimited or comma separated value. Please, can you hear me? My internet is not stable today at all.
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, all right. So, how do we save a CSV version? So I'll start by giving it a name. Let's say data one. And then I have to come to where I have save as type to update the format, and then select what? This very option, comma delimited. And then you click on save. So I've saved a CSV version. Now, I also want to save a set version of the same data, because I'm going to show us how you can load these two different versions as the common formats your data might be given to you. So I'll go through the save as again, then target the same folder, and then I can say this one is the same, or let's say data 2, but I want to save it as worksheets. That is pure Excel file. So you click on this option and then you click on save. So now we have two data sets are saved in our project folder. So the next thing is for us to go back to our Anaconda and set up a notebook. That is the next thing. Go back to Anaconda and then set up a notebook. Now, the notebook is going to serve as the dashboard, like I spoke about. So once you get here, you launch your Jupyter Notebook, because through this application, we'll be able to set up our analysis dashboard or environment. Mrs. Oyikosi, hope you are still with us. Hope you are still here. So I'm waiting for the notebook to launch. So while I'm waiting, you can be doing the same thing from your end. All right, so as you can see, so this is let me close one because I have two of them open. I selected that tab twice. So this is your Jupyter Notebook directory. Now, the first thing you have to do here is to create your notebook. But before that, let's quickly look at the directories that are available. So when I said directory, I'm talking about all these items here. These are like different storage where you can choose to create your notebook, which is going to serve as your analysis platform. in. But in our own case, we have already set up a folder. So which means that our notebook should be created inside that folder. All right. So where did you create that folder? The folder was created on desktop. So you must always navigate by double clicking. Double click on that particular directory to make sure that you are in. So as you can see, we are on desktop, and in that desktop, we are in directly this folder name, which happened to be the name of the folder that we just created. And then, of course, you can see the two data sets we have added so far. So if you are working for organization or individual, you need to set up a folder. As soon as you are given a data to analyze, you put it inside that folder. So all your data can be in this folder. All your data can be in this folder. Then the only thing that will be changing is that when you want to analyze client A data, you create a notebook for it, and that notebook is still within that same folder. I don't know if anybody understood what I just explained before I proceed. Mr. Joseph, are you?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So once you are
So what you're saying is we can create as many
book.
files in that folder,
Yes.
in that okay, okay.
Yeah. So now,
All right.
once you are sure that you are in this very folder, and then you go to new. Once you click on new, you select Python 3. And that file will be added to the folder you are in. Now, most time, it can automatically open itself. But if it does not, then what you do, you double click on it so that it can open the notebook. So here is your directory. This is where you always fall back to check the data and the resources you are working with. And then this is the dashboard where you are performing all your analysis. So anytime you are in your notebook, always ensure that you do not close this, because there will be at times you will come back to check one or two things and then go back to your notebook. So the next thing, like I have explained to us before, is to give it a name. And to give it a name, you click on title. All these things I have touched them before when we started, but I'm just recapping. Now, here, I want to label this particular notebook as first underscore analysis notebook. So after that, I click on what? Rename. Right? So once you have done that, the next thing we want to learn is how do we import library? Let's talk about library in a moment, because it's very important now that we have started analyzing or dealing with data to understand what are libraries. So libraries are collection of functions. So we can see library as functions storage. So one of the reasons why Python is recommended for data analysis because of the vast of its library. It has so many libraries that a data scientist or a data analyst can access in order to use different functions. Okay, so the first thing is for us to import those libraries. Is for us to import those libraries, because if you do not import the library, the notebook is as good as just a platform. That is what it is. Right? Though the notebook is designed or developed to understand Python, but you have to speak the Python through the library, the function stored in the library. So I'll use comment So the first thing is what? Importing data analysis libraries. So what are these data analysis libraries? The first one we want to look at is pandas. Pandas. So how do we define pandas as one of the most used data analysis library in Python? So pandas is one of the most used data analysis library, that is Python library, which offers us numerous functions, both for reading our data into the notebook and for reprocessing or performing mathematical operations on our data set. So let's put it in proper definition. So pandas is a popular open source library in Python for data manipulation and analysis. So every library you are bringing in, you should be able to identify what exactly would that library be doing for you. So I just pointed out the 2K function of the pandas as a library. One, it allows us what? To manipulate our data. Then secondly, it allows us to analyze our data. Now, don't forget what I told you before. The libraries are a bunch of what? Functions or stored function storage, which means that we are calling a bucket of functions into the notebook. So what is the syntax? How do we acknowledge it? How do we initiate it on or in this notebook we are working with? We are going to say import. Import is a keyword. Once you see it with green color, it is a keyword. Okay, so import pandas as PD. Import pandas as PD. Import pandas as PD. So what it means is that you are importing pandas and you are representing it as PD. So going forward, anytime we want to reference pandas, we will represent it with just what? PD. Did we get that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you with me? So I believe you understand what I mean by what? Import pandas as PD. Now, you are saying that going forward, anytime you want to call pandas, you will call what? PD. Now, there is need for you to run the code for Python for the notebook to acknowledge it. So you click on run, and then you notice that it will take some time for it to be acknowledged. Once a value is read in this square bracket, it shows that you have successfully imported the library. Perfect. So which means that at the moment, pandas functions are present in the notebook. So if I'm speaking those functions, they will respond positively. I hope that is clear. Let me get a response.
Yes.
Is it okay?
Yes.
All right. So now we
Okay.
have
That
imported.
is okay, but I don't have.
It's okay, but
I don't have this data set.
you can go to, what I will do is that I will drop the data sets, but any data set you have there, it mustn't be this data set. So what we are learning now is just how to import the library. Then after that, before we look at how to load data. So the reason why we started with loading the library, because the library will offer us the function for loading in the data. So it does not really matter when we get to the real analysis. I'll be sharing the data I want to work with us, but you can still work with any data set you have there. So we have just imported one of the popular library. So now we want to also import another library, and I will also be telling us why do we need this library, because you don't just import them. Okay, so the next library we want to import is called NumPy. It's called NumPy. That is the next library we want to import. So what set of function can we access through this bucket of functions? So NumPy means numerical Python. That is the meaning of what? NumPy, numerical Python. How do we define it? It's a library for working with arrays and mathematical operations in Python. Let me define it again. I said NumPy means numerical Python. Is a library for working with arrays and mathematical operations. So the word array here means structure values, like we have in our data frame, where we have the values arranged in vertical and horizontal. Okay, so when it comes to managing large data, when it comes to reading large data in Python, this is the library that is in charge. So when you hear that, you shouldn't just stop learning data analysis with Excel, because you will be limited. Excel can only process 1,048,576. So in a situation where you are given a data set up to 2 million, so what do? It means you will not be able to analyze such data. So that is why you still need to learn program like Python, because Python can actually read large volume of data. So the question is, what is making it possible for Python to be able to load large data sets? Because of the NumPy. So we also need it. So I will have to import it. So I will also say import NumPy as NP. Now, these representation are not constant. I can say import pandas as Prosper, which means that anytime I want to call pandas, as far as this notebook is concerned, is now represented with Prosper. So you can use any other word to represent them, but it shouldn't be another keyword. Right? So while we are using this shortcut or this NP, because these two words actually explain the full expression. Now, we just updated this particular cell, and that is why you are seeing the number in the square bracket showing us this color, which means that there is a code that is yet to be executed. So you just run it, and then you now have both the pandas and the NumPy imported. I hope we are following. I want to make sure, because we'll round up soon. We hope we are following. All right. So the next thing, now that we have imported the required library, there is still another sub function that we need to give attention to. So I will say from is optional anyway. From pandas, import series. So the series, the S is capital letter. Series, the comma, then data frame. The D should be capital letter and the F should also be capital letter. Okay, so now what we are saying is that you have already imported the entire container and you are only saying that for easier assessment, you are only saying that, okay, from that bucket that I've imported, which is pandas, now represented as PD, I want you to what? To bring out only this so that you can easily what? Access. That's why I said it is optional. So even if you don't have it here, by giving it focus, is already what? Here. Now I'll run it, acknowledge. Now we have imported the popular library we need at the moment. When we get to plotting of graphs, we are going to involve another set of libraries. But for now, we are going to work with what? Pandas and what? NumPy. So you should know this as a data analyst using Python. When you go for an interview, these are a common question they can ask you. Which framework do you use? You should be able to mention Jupyter Notebook. How does Jupyter Notebook receive its services? You said through what? Anaconda. Okay, so what are the libraries that offers you set of functions you use in talking to your data as a data analyst? You say, okay, you use pandas and you use NumPy. Now that we have both of them imported, the last topic for today is how to load our data into this, because I told us that the essence of you having a dashboard or the notebook is just to help us to bring all our data components or aspects in one place. Now, we have been able to assemble our library now, but we need the data we want to talk to with the functions in the library. So I'm going to show us how you can load two different data formats, and then we stop there. The next class, we start the analysis. So the first type of data format I want to show us how to load into your Jupyter Notebook is CSV. And what is CSV? Comma separated value. These are values that Python recognizes as maybe you list them and then you put comma. But we are going to frame them in a way that they will still give us that format we have in Excel for us to be able to understand it. So now that we have loaded our library, you can now see the reason why you have been learning Python basic. For example, the whole of that data set must be saved in Python memory. You cannot say because you have it here, you now feel that Python has acknowledged them. No, this is your root directory. As far this notebook is concerned, those two data sets here, this one and this, they are not what? Recognized. So how do we copy them and save them in Python memory? Within this notebook, we have to start by creating a variable. So you can see the reason why we learned variable. Like the question Mr. Joseph asked the other time, you can see that instead of us calling it variable now, because variable can only store one value. List can store multiple value. Then tuple can store multiple value. Dictionary can store key and value. But your entire data set is the collection of dictionaries. So the next word to describe that kind of data in this context is data frame. So which means that I am going to say my data frame object name instead of saying what? Variable. So my data frame object name. So I can say, let's say what? The A1 equals to. Now, I will now reference the library that is going to offer me the function for reading that data into what? The DA1 as my data frame object name. So to reference that library, I'll say PD. Remember that we have already imported pandas and we have represented it as what? PD. So I'll say PD concatenate, that is what? PD dot, then I'll consult the function. The function is read underscore CSV. And then is as a function, you open the bracket. All right. Now, every function needs parameter to work with. What are the inputs you are giving to that function? What will the function consume? The function is to work with the data, because that is what you are sending the function an error to go to what? To your Jupyter Notebook directory, this particular data, then call it and store it in what? DA1. That is the communication. So you must supply the name of the data that you want it to call from here. So how do I supply that name? The name of that data is string. So you can see, if not, that we have been learning Python basic. As I use the word string now, you will be asking me what is string. Now, being a string, it means that you have to what? That name, you have to quote it. So once you have inserted your string, then you go back to the directory, you right-click on that data and select copy paths. Where your system does not have this particular function, copy path, because you may not find it in some system. So like I was saying, where your system does not have that particular parts, because if you are using some system like old system, you may not have that particular function. When you right click, is a new introduce a function in modern operating system. So you right click on it and select copy path. That path you are copying is actually the URL, the address. That is what it means. Then you switch back to your node. Just bear with me, the network, but we are rounding up now. No, now you now paste it inside the part that particular string that you open. Now, the next thing to confirm if you have actually read the data from the Jupyter Notebook directory, you run it. Now, if you run it and it does not output any error, it means the data is now loaded in your notebook and stored in what? The A1. So whenever you need this data, you will now be calling the A1. But unfortunately, we have an error which is head